having a little chit chat with each other. And one of our favorite things is to answer questions from y'all. So we will probably open it up fairly quickly for questions. But if you want to jump in at any time, like it's not, we're here to have fun, not super formal. We love meeting you. So thank you for coming out on this hot Thursday evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's good to see so many people. This is great.
Yes, yes, yes. So Michelle,
Yes.
she's this is no, how many you were saying this is your fifth
Third.
store in the last.
This is only it's my third stop. It's my second store. And then tomorrow I'm in San Francisco. And then Sunday I'm back in LA for the final event. So it's sort of like they call this a mini tour.
Same.
Yeah.
It's funny, we're both reluctant Angelinos. That was the funny part of our bio. We both live there, which we just discovered in the back room. So I don't know. So tell us a little bit about Slaying You.
Yeah, so Slaying You, this is the second book in a series. The first book kicked off with a young woman, Amber Jameson, who is a psychology student, which I very much ripped from my own life. And she is tied up in the back of a serial killer's van, and she's really annoyed about it. Like, she is so angry at herself. She's like, I am not this girl. Like, this is not something that happens to me. And she ends up getting out because, it's chapter 1, and she's got to have a whole rest of a book to get through. But it basically blows up her life. And through a series of events, she has to go to Vegas to try and get new identity documents. And while she's there, she attracts the attention of yet another serial killer because she's apparently a magnet for them. And it's like this very campy version of Vegas that doesn't exactly exist in real life, but it focuses on kind of the seedier side, right? Like it's like the motels, it's the pawn shops. The main characters are like motel, owners and managers and sex workers. And so she assembles this kind of motley crew to help her.
Oh, I love the cover.
Thank
It's such a
you.
fun cover.
Right?
It's such a fun cover.
And how about you? Tell me
So
about
mine,
Yeah.
So 1 and 4. So it's kind of like all of my books, right? So it's if you've read any of my stuff, it's a little bit hard to talk about without giving anything away. And this one is very much that way. So I'm going to do my best to talk about this book without any spoilers. But basically, so it is a reality TV show, Comeback Kids, former child stars. So think Big Brother, live streaming 24/7, cameras are rolling. And so it's all these former child stars that are in this house, trying to get sober and make better choices in their lives, right? And since it's a Lucinda Berry book, as you would imagine, things don't go so hot in that house. They don't go well. And so somebody dies, they die on camera. And so then it becomes, who committed the crime. But it's not really a whodunit. It's one of my darker books. So there's some really dark themes in it. But that's about all I can tell you without giving anything else of the book away. But so that's how it starts. It starts with a bang and then steamrolls all the way to the end.
So would this be like a locked room mystery?
It is not a locked room mystery. Okay. So if you go into it thinking it's a locked room mystery, you will be disappointed. Yeah. So and it's not a it's very character driven. There is a past point of view. There's a her storyline that is tied in to what's currently happening. So most of my stuff has like a past and a present. And so this one is very much the same. And so the past storyline is this her point of view that you're not sure who her is until the very end.
Oh, I love
and
that.
then you find how her is connected to the present. So,
that's fun.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with that? Were you a former child actor or connected to any?
No. No. I mean, I live in LA. So we're surrounded by it. No, yeah. I mean, the actual story itself is I knew the twist, so how it ends. So every book that I write is very different. And so with this one, I knew what the twist was going to be. And so I wrote backwards from that. And a reality TV show worked very well to be able to do the twist. And then also the relationship between the three women is sort of central to the book. And so I needed to have something to build that relationship on. And so a reality TV set was, in my mind, the best way to do it. So
I love that.
yeah.
And set in LA.
Yes, set in LA actually.
Perfect.
Yeah,
There
I
you
have
go.
a couple of books that have been set in LA. So if you will probably, if you read through, you would probably recognize, some of the places I'm talking about. Actually, you actually would. So yeah. How about yours? Where's your set?
So
What's the
mine
setting?
is mostly, it starts in Tennessee, but it quickly hops over to Vegas. And most of the book is set in and around Vegas. But, again, like it's the part of Vegas that the tourists don't necessarily see. And I wanted to be, I started writing the series during the pandemic when I desperately needed an escape hatch. So I built one, right? Like I built this very weird kind of over the top version of Vegas that, really doesn't exist. So, when I picture it, like I feel like it's very campy. It's sort of bright candy colors. Like that's kind of the world. That's why I love this cover so much, because I feel like the cover really captures the world.
Yeah, I love the cover. It's very striking. Yeah. Is it so you said the idea came during the pandemic, or you started writing it during the pandemic?
Kind of both. I wanted a book, I really wanted to write something that was feminist, but not necessarily with like women who were, former Navy SEALs, right? Like I wanted women who could rely on what are considered more traditional feminine strengths, like their ability to multitask and plan ahead, their ability to form relationships. I wanted to kind of bring that together in this. There's still like, the whole thing, the main character, it turns out that she has a backstory that ends up being very helpful for her in a lot of ways. And I love big set pieces. I'm like such a sucker for a big set piece. Like I love Ocean's 11 movies. I love all of these like big over the top Thomas Crown Affair. So I usually start with those scenes and kind of work back from there.
Okay. So question for you, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Oh, I'm definitely a pantser. The ending of this book was completely rewritten 5 different times and was completely different each time. It wasn't like literally, it's arduous writing these books because I will write and then like rip out 200 pages and completely rewrite. It's a nightmare. It's the worst way to do it. I don't recommend it. It's terrible.
I am also a pantser, so I share your pain.
Yeah.
And so for those of you that don't know, in the writing world, so we're not talking about our actual pants. We do wear them while we write. So a plotter is, as you would imagine. Well, I don't know. Maybe you don't wear pants. I do wear pants when I write. Perhaps. I don't know.
Sweatpants. Right? I wear sweatpants.
Like, maybe you don't. I don't know. But yeah, so a plotter is what you would imagine is somebody that, sits down and detailed outlines, has a very specific idea of like beginning, middle, and end and how things are going to go. And then pantsers are us, right? So it happens very different ways, usually every time, and that's one of the things that ends up happening that's very painful is you do end up cutting huge chunks of your manuscript out because you're like, you wrote yourself into a corner and figured out, oh shit, this does not work, like, so yeah, which can also be
it's a nightmare,
painful, especially if it's a big chunk. So yeah, that's the difference. Plotter versus pantsers. Yeah, jump in, please.
So you both write kind of vaguely in the thriller, mystery, suspense, different kind of types of mysteries, really. How did you get into that? Did you always want to write in this genre that we all love? And who were some of your inspirations? Start with Michelle.
So it's funny. I actually, in my very first book, which I'm not even going to say how far back this was, but I was trying to write this like coming of age story set on a college campus, and I kept getting stuck like 20 pages in, and I would try it from a different character's point of view. And I finally, like one night I was sitting there and I was like, screw it. Like, and I killed off a character, and the entire thing, I was so, I was so angry. I'm like, she's dead now. And suddenly the whole thing started to just unroll before me. And it really threw me because I didn't really consider myself at the time to be a big mystery crime fiction fan. Like I wasn't reading a ton of thrillers, but I realized when I thought back, almost all the books I loved when I was younger were mysteries and thrillers, right? Like that's really is a big way that we get kids into writing is we give them, I mean, Encyclopedia Brown series, right? And like all the Nancy Drew books and all of that stuff. I think every good book has a mystery at its core, even if it's considered literary fiction. So I sort of stumbled into it that way. And then I kind of had to give myself like a master class on the genres and what I was actually doing. But I don't read my first book. I think it's terrible. I really do. Someone the other day was like, I'll start from the beginning. I'm like, oh my
You're
God,
like, don't.
please. No,
Go 3
don't
deep.
do that. Don't do that to yourself.
So my journey, so I've always been like a writer. So I was just always scribbling stories when I was a kid, and writing books. But I sort of had a whole different career before I got here, in psychology, working as a trauma psychologist. And so I'd done tons of writing. Again, I'd always been a writer, but not anyone that like shared any of my stuff with the world. And part of me being a writer is I was also a voracious reader, and I've always read thrillers. Like I've always been on the dark side. I just came out that way. Like I wrote a story in 4th grade that was like my first story in 4th grade. It was a little girl dying of cancer in her bedroom, right? I'm in 4th grade. And she's like watching her friends. Oh, it was called Through My Bedroom Window. Anyways, she watches her friends outside the window as she's dying. But I was in 4th grade. So, but then fast forward, so I'm working as a psychologist, and I'm like somewhere in my graduate training and in early, and a friend of mine. So if any of you have ever read my book, Phantom Limb, that book is the one that's most closely related to an actual case that I treated and worked with. And so it's an identical twin story. And so a friend of mine was treating the family. It's basically twin girls that were horrifically abused in their home. They were finally taken out of their home by child services. They were given to this incredible family. And my friend was part of the treatment team, helping, the foster parents that then came the adoptive parents with these 2 girls, right? And it was amazing. It was incredible. It was like an Oprah Winfrey, savior story. And then the girls went camping, and one of the twins got bit by a mosquito, and she got encephalitis to her brain, and she died. And so that was where Phantom Limb was born. I was like, what would happen to that other twin that was left behind? And so I wrote that almost all through graduate school is when I was writing Phantom Limb. And then when I was done with it, just because I've been a reader my whole life, I was like, this is a good story, And so that's when I decided that I was going to like actually share like with the world, like what I was writing. So that was the beginning. The beginning, I was like, I think I should do something with this. So, yeah.
And a lot of people are curious about writers' different like path to publication, they call it. And these days it's there's a lot of different ways to get there. Whereas before it was always the traditional. You have to get an agent, break through the big 5 or whatever it is, and that old kind of model. And these days, there's a lot more flexibility. And, I know, Lucinda, you've published a lot of independently published, material. You're with Thomas and Mercer, Simon & Schuster. So you have a lot of experience. And I know you, Michelle, I remember your YA stuff that you published, The Tunnels, which was awesome. So maybe talk about that.
I've done it all.
Who doesn't love a tunnel, Or a good asylum book, we're all down for that. Yeah. So talk about kind of how you both got your foot in the door. I know there's always aspiring writers probably in this audience. How did you do it?
It was hard. I mean, honestly, I think my first, I really am dating myself. Like my first book I wrote in like 2001, and it was not a mystery. And I sent it to like 50 agents, and all of them rejected it. The Tunnels was actually my first published novel, and I got my agent with that one. And I got her pretty quickly, actually. That one was not as, I think I had sent it out. The lesson that I learned was when you are if you are trying to get an agent, start with like 5 and wait to hear back, because I like carpet bombed the entire New York publishing world, and that was a mistake, because by the time I started getting them back, I was like reread the book and was like, oh my God, I can't believe I sent this to anyone. But I'm on my 3rd agent. I'm on my 8th editor. I'm on my 6th publisher, I think. So I've really I feel like I've been through the mill to some extent. I've had great experiences. I've had not so great experiences. I think the thing that you learn, especially like, my very first mystery conference was in 2006 in Anchorage, Alaska. And I remember being there the first night, and I didn't know anyone. And I was talking to this much more seasoned writer, and he said, just watch, like, people are going to start falling off over the years. He's like, the only people who stay are the people who just hang in there and keep writing and keep trying. And since that first book got published, I've had 2 other books that are in a drawer that never sold. And I think the hardest part of this industry for me is always like learning to detach, hitting that point where it's like, you know what, I'm going to put this one aside. I'm going to start something new, and I'm not going to get too attached to the consequences and to the outcomes, because at the end of the day, we only have so much control over who ends up buying the book, if anyone, and then what they end up doing with it. So I think I've gotten very zen with it at this point.
Develop a thick skin over time.
Yeah, you kind of have to. And really,
Yeah.
it is the persistence. The people who don't go on are the people who get upset and they stop.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would really echo that too. If there are any writers in here, right, is you absolutely have to have thick skin, get very comfortable with rejection. It all goes along with it. So my path was like, the book that I was just telling you. So Phantom Limb, I, pitched to agents. I, actually got an amazing agent for that book. And then she tried to sell it everywhere and to publishers, and nobody would take it. And we got we can tell she's a great storyteller. We can tell she's a psychologist, and then we liked it, but we weren't in love with it, and I'm always like, I'm not asking you to marry me. You know what I mean? Just like publish my book, I'm not asking you to commit. But anyways, lots and lots of rejection. Nobody would do it. And so because I believed in the story, I did it myself, and it did very well. And so my next couple, so Saving Noah and Appetite for Innocence, my first 3 were all self-published, and then have subsequently been picked up by various other publishers since. But so that was my journey. And then for a while, just because I was a little bit bitter that they all rejected me, quite honestly, I stayed solo for a while. Like once I started sort of making a name for myself, it was, then people come to you, and I was like, nobody wanted me when, but then eventually you realize that, there's a part of the business that you can't do by yourself and all of that. So, but I've really, I'm also very stubborn, but so I've really tried to sort of do this thing my own way, but I started in a much later time, right? Like there's so many different ways to like get your content out there nowadays that it's like, it just, so I don't know the traditional model real well, 'cause I came in, when everything was sort of like, topsy-turvy, flipped upside down. And then I've just like charted my own path throughout. So
Yeah, I actually mailed my first submissions.
your whole
Mailed. I did like the partial, but I mean literally like envelopes and stamps. I mean that's how long ago I started at this. It's ridiculous. Looking back.
Like, did you act when they would ask for full manuscripts though? Did you actually back?
Oh yeah.
You would just
You would have to print
printed
the
thing,
whole. You'd get yourself down to Kinko's.
and you printed
Print the whole thing and mail it off and hope for the best. And you dropped like, it was like $50 or $60 to print it.
That's not
so
cheap, because it's
not
like
cheap. It's an investment. Yeah, no, these were not good times. Dark
I
ages.
missed that. I missed the
Yeah, you
the
didn't miss
printing out-
anything.
the having to send the full manuscripts like snail mail.
no, that
like
was
oof,
it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. Yeah.
So Yeah, and just never get like, and just if you're writing, just don't ever give up. You know what I mean? It's like that whole like you're one no away from your yes is actually very true in this industry, quite honestly, you know?
Well, and it's really arbitrary. I mean, that's the thing is you really learn not to take it personally because the problem is that like it is a business, right? So at the end of the day, you could submit the same. I mean, J.K. Rowling got 25 rejections for Harry Potter, right? There's like 25 editors out there who are just kicking themselves because they could have been the person who
imagine?
discovered Harry Potter, and instead they gave like the polite no. It just
We're
didn't
not in love with
resonate
it.
Yeah, totally.
We like
I
this
mean,
story, but we're not in love with it.
right? And it's possible that if she had submitted that book 10 years earlier or 5 years later, maybe it wouldn't have gotten picked up at all. Because it's a bit of a fickle business, and everyone's sort of always chasing the next thing, which is why you can't do that if you're trying to get published. You got to just write what you want to write, because trying to like chase the beast, you'll never catch up.
Yeah, especially right now.
No.
You know, it's like
No.
It's like the whole romanticy thing is slowly morphing into
wild, yeah.
something else already,
Yeah.
or lots of different things, which is very cool to see.
You know, they get
Yeah.
such cool books.
Yeah, they
like
really
and they're
do.
like all the stuff on the side. I'm like, can we start?
You're starting
know,
to see
why
I
don't
mean,
that.
we're a little bit more. Like Geneva
Yeah.
Rose did the blood on hers. I'm like, can we get some blood on mine?
I'm gonna step
I
up
just
the
want a
game
dragon.
bit.
Knives
There's
or
no
something?
dragons.
I don't
in
know.
that-
It's like all their books are like.
There's no dragons in
So
my
beautiful
book, but
now,
I
and we're
still,
like-
I want a dragon right here.
I mean, give us, right? We need to, you know. But
Michelle,
anyways,
can you
yes.
give just the basic for the people who haven't read you? This is the second book.
This is the
in a
second book.
series. Can you give the basic setup of?
So basically, in the first book, I won't give too much away because obviously everyone's going to buy a copy tonight if they haven't bought it already. But in the first book, you know, Amber escapes from the serial killer with the help of this random woman who shows up at the 11th hour. This is literally like page 5, so I'm not giving much away. And the woman accidentally kills the serial killer and also gets annoyed and just takes off. And then it turns out that because of that woman, Amber gets targeted. And basically, like my working title for the series were Grace and Amber hunt serial killers. So I wanted sort of like a Dexter meets Thelma and Louise. That was kind of my goal. And so in the next book, this one, it's 6 months after the fact. They have to go back to Vegas for a wedding, which, you know, is right there on the cover. There's Wedding Chapel. Because I needed a reason to get the whole gang back together. And in the 6 months in between the books, all of the characters have kind of tried to go back to their normal lives. And it turns out they're just not very good at being normal. Like, these are not those people. And so when they get to Vegas and there's something else going on, they all kind of like jump into action. And because I think, you know, we both have a psychology background, the first book for me was, you know, I have a lot of like family stuff in the book. And so this book is very much family. And I will say that, like, I hope she's not watching. The mother in this book is so my mother, I can't even tell you. The voice was so clear in my head, and the mother is hilarious, but very unintentionally so.
A few minutes ago,
hope
you said
she's
you
not
created a over-the-top Vegas. Is that possible?
I mean, I think it is. I already think Vegas is such
It's
a
so over the
weird
top.
place, right? I mean, I love it. Like, there's just something about it that's.
Did you know there's like a whole bunch of underground tunnels in Vegas
Yes.
where homeless?
Oh, I know.
Right? Did
oh
y'all
no,
know
there's like a
this?
whole
Have you,
underground
like,
world.
I
like,
yeah,
yes, I
spiral
think
into
it's-
that rabbit hole.
Right? I know.
That's a book there.
That's book 3, folks. Lucinda stealing.
Who's
my
gonna grab it? Co-write it.
We have a fight for it right now. Yeah, no, I think it's like it was a really it's hard though because I don't know Vegas that well. So I will also say, like, my version of Vegas, like, if I need to put a casino somewhere, a casino's going there. The casino will not be there if you go to Las Vegas. It does not actually exist in the world, but I like plunk things down, and I played a little bit with the geography, but especially since I was writing the first one during COVID, I couldn't actually go and do any research. So it was all like Google Earth and just kind of diving in and jumping around and trying to see what I could find.
I forgot the question. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No, It was a Michelle specific one.
Oh, okay, good. I was like,
But I have Lucinda. Lucinda was here in. You were here in January.
yes.
For part of a writers retreat group.
No, readers retreat.
A readers
Creepy
retreat.
book club. Creepy book club. I see him. I see him representing.
People that were here.
Anyways, it's a great book club. If you if you love to travel with book people, join Creepy Book Club.
You
I'm
know,
not
yeah, one of the things that really occurred to me about that was just how supportive you guys all are of each other. I mean, there's a real sense of community in this genre. I'm sure there's some cattiness behind the scenes. But yeah.
Well, I mean, that's also a great group. And but I also, I mean, like book people and reader people are,
Yeah.
you know, they're lovely people.
Well,
I
and
might be a little
mystery
biased,
people.
but yeah, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same with independent bookstores. You know, it's like we all kind of root for each other. You know, it's a tough racket.
Well, and
For
I
sure.
would say authors in general, though, for the most, at least from in the thriller. I don't know outside of
Not
this
YA.
bubble. Really? Okay. But I
YA
feel
is like a
is
middle
it?
school lunchroom.
Is
oh
it?
yeah, no,
Okay.
do not.
heard
Oh my
romance is
God,
that
Don't
way
cry.
too.
Okay, I'll
don't
stay where I'm at.
don't ever
'Cause I
go to
feel
Y'all
like we're all
Fest.
pretty supportive of each other, though. Like I feel like thriller writers in general are.
Miss, I feel like that was the
Right?
thing is I sort of I went into the YA world for a while and I raced back because I felt like it was just I started with mystery and crime fiction and thrillers and everyone was so different. Everyone's so warm, everyone's so supportive. Lee Child blurbed my first book, right? Like, I mean, I had all of these amazing supportive people from day one. And that's the great thing about going to these conferences is you'll be sitting at a table with all of these authors who you've been reading for years, and they're all super nice, and they're all really friendly and welcoming, and that was not my experience with YA.
Oh, good to know.
I've heard romance is the same way.
Oh, romance. Oh, my God. Let me tell you, you go to a romance convention, you're going to
Well,
want
now
to
their
bring
conventions are a
whole-
trip. That's,
Woo! Yeah. It's like you just want to dip your
very
whole
different.
body in hand sanitizer.
Well, before we open it up to questions, I'm sure everybody has them. One of the things that's always fascinating to readers is just this sort of mystic. How do you guys get the words down? What's your schedule? Do you have one? Do you shoot for a specific word count? Are you a morning person or an evening person? How does that work? How do you?
So I do because I write a lot. I'm on like a 9-11 month release schedule, and I'm always doing multiple things. So when I'm doing multiple things, I actually like have word count goals that I give myself. You know, when I'm working on rough drafts, you know, I have all kinds of
What's your
different things that
count?
we do. What's my like 3K a day usually.
Wow, that's a lot.
Sometimes
That's about
5K.
like 12 to 15 pages,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm hardcore and everything I do. I can't help it. But yeah. So, and then I also, sometimes I do like writing sprints. Like over COVID, I actually with a bunch of writers, like on Zoom, we did writers sprints together, right? Where you set a timer and you don't, if it's like pen to paper, you don't take your pen off the paper, or if you're typing, you don't take your fingers off the keys, and you just 20 minutes, 20 minutes, So, but yeah, I have word count goals. Or I'd never finish.
Yeah. I aim for 10,000 a week. So ideally that's 2,500 a day, but I also have days when that just doesn't seem to be working for me. And so some days I'll do 1,000. Some days if it's going well, I'll do like 5,000, but it's really kind of dependent. But I have to do that too, because I'm like, I think that's the thing that people understand is to like really do this, you have to be so disciplined.
If you like writers that produce and publish are some of the most, like, we sort of have this reputation of being these like, creative people that are like, but like if you are really writing, you are you are serious, you are committed, you are, getting it done. Because if you don't, there's like a whole line of people waiting to come in after you, but yeah, it's like you have to really, really, really be disciplined, because you're also just monitoring yourself as well. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, that's the other thing is I have to set, like, if I don't have a specific deadline, I have to set one for myself. I have to be like, I want a draft done by this date. And then I really have to treat it like it's an actual deadline. I can't give myself the wiggle room.
I move a lot when I write. Like I don't write sitting down a lot. Like I'm standing, I'm moving, and that helps me like write more. I feel like I don't know.
Do you do like
Picture
a
like some
standing
real
desk,
aggressive
or
music.
So
you
I stand. I
going in the
stand. I have a
background.
standing desk. I have like walking pads. I have all kinds of stuff. Like I
Oh
just
my
like
God.
movement when I'm doing anything.
I
so
am sitting on my ass.
I'm not.
And occasionally checking the fridge actually pretty regularly.
Music? No music?
I'm music.
I'm dead silence. I could
Dead
never.
silence.
Oh my
Always?
God! I don't
For
know
every
how
draft,
how do
even
people
editing?
how do people write in cafes? Oh, especially with editing.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I cannot. I mean, I get so distracted. And that's the thing is, it's easier now because my kids are off in college. But when my kids were home, like that was really, I would just have to write when they were at school. Right. So I would like drop them off at school, work out, and then I would write for a couple of hours. And then the minute they came home, I'm like, well, that was the day then.
That's funny.
Let's open it up to some questions.
Talked before a little bit about process and how it was either plotting or pantsing.
Pantsing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
plotting or pantsing. Yeah.
Back to that because I still don't understand it. But I'm just curious about process as far as why did you choose this way over a plotting way? Did you get more of a charge out of it, or is this the way you've always done it?
Well, so for me, because I come from such an academic background and such a different way of writing, that like all of my academic stuff, whenever I plot or outline, it feels like academic, right? It feels like school. It has that piece for me. So it's just, and that's a completely different voice, right? And so it's just not creative. And so for me, I think that that's just a big part of it is like that sort of writing in my brain is like compartmentalized in like a different way, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I wrote the first book and I really didn't know what I was doing. So I was so happy that it sold. And then I went on tour for that book with this guy who was a former engineer who would talk in these like sessions that we were doing about like having 100-page document that was color coded and had every single plot point laid out. And I remember sitting there going, oh no, I've been doing this all wrong. And so I wrote my second book with an outline, and that's one of the ones in the drawer. And what I realized was that by the time I started writing it, I was bored because I knew everything that was going to happen. I mean, part of the fun for me is finding out what's going to happen next. And when the characters end up in a situation where I feel like, this is what I do when I'm watching shows too or reading books. Like if I know what's going to happen next, I'm kind of over it. So anytime I find myself writing that, I'm like, nope, hard stop. Like, let's think of something completely different and hopefully bizarre that they'll do instead, because I don't ever want to be bored. I get bored kind of easily.
Takes the juice out of it.
Totally.
Why pants?
I don't know why.
Fly by the seat of your
Oh, there
pants.
we
Fly by the seat of your
Thank
pants.
you.
Yes.
Da-dun.
This is what Stephen King does too, actually.
Yes, he does. He just did. He just did a recent interview, and it's so funny because his latest that's coming out, I think
It's like a
next, it's
mystery,
like
right?
coming, but it's like very much a whodunit.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because just the way that he says plot when he's giving the interview, he's like, and so because it's a whodunit, he's like, I had to actually plot, and like you can just tell how painful it is for him. He's like the same way, right? And that's what Yeah.
Yes. Hold it up higher, John.
When you finish killing me.
So you got that done.
Yep.
Did you know at that point when it was finished that you had another book in you?
I had the idea. I mean, I really did know like what I would do if I had the opportunity. And we usually sign 2 or 3 book contracts, right? So I knew I was going to do at least one sequel to this, and I was excited to because I really love these characters and I love this world. And I think that's the thing is, in a lot of ways, like this was the first book where I felt like I had the opportunity to be kind of funny. Like I think it is a really funny book, and that was something I had a hard time managing in my earlier books. Most of it is Amber's inner voice, and she's hilarious. And I just heard that voice so clearly in my head that when I started writing Slaying You, I was like, oh, great. Like I'm back in this person's head again, and that's super fun. And I do technically have an idea for the third one, but I haven't had a chance to write it yet. I'm off the book a year wheel because I just couldn't. I was like, I'm doing all this other stuff now, and so I'm trying to like kind of take my time more now, but like yeah, I don't know, we'll see. Fingers crossed. I think New Orleans for the next one. Yeah, I think we might be leaving Vegas.
It's a fun city.
Where do you get your inspiration for your books? Are they like specific cases? Do you just come up with them on your own? Where do you, because they're so different.
Right.
Can you guys repeat the question just for the?
Oh yeah. So she asked where do I get the ideas for my work? And so it's a lot of my early stuff is very closely aligned with like all of the cases that I was seeing, right? And probably a big chunk of I don't know, probably first 4 or 5 books are really tied to stuff that was from those days. But now it's I pull from different places and different spaces. Like one of the things that you'll find sort of at the core of all of mine, right, is there's always something like psychological, but that's also like current, right? So it's like pulling in like I'm trying to think of a good example. It's easier. Oh, so like in If You Tell a Lie, right? That there's a character, I'm spacing what her name is, but there's a character in it that like really struggles with body image and and then she turns around and becomes an influencer, right? So her whole storyline is very common in a lot of like current issues that were happening now, right? Where we're moving from this like obsessed with like you're supposed to look one way and we're like, oh, actually maybe it's okay to look and have all of these other different body shapes, right? So I try to bring in current stuff in everything that I do, if that makes sense, right? So, and
Was Saving Noah based on it?
yes,
Because that's effed up.
yeah, it is. Saving Noah is pulled on from a lot of different places. Yeah, yeah, but this saving it like his experience and is way more common than you would like to imagine, So, and part of Saving Noah was one of the things that struck me so much in my work with children and families was not so much there's the whole like stereotype of like bad, I don't like to call any kid bad, but bad kids come from bad homes, right? No kid is bad, but whatever for the sake of the point, right? So we have that thing, and oftentimes, yes, kids that get into a lot of trouble and have a lot of issues do come from homes that, there's all of these histories, right? Addiction, trauma, all of this. But there's this small group of people that you see where their kids do horrific things and the parents are really genuine, kind, loving parents, right? And so that's part of where Saving Noah came from, was like what about these mothers, right, that your kid actually does the worst thing ever, right, that you could imagine, right? And those stories were so like because those parents were wrecked, right? And it's very and the most common thing is 2 siblings actually in the Noah scenario. I'm trying not to traumatize everybody in here because I know my stuff is so much darker than like you will not laugh in any of my books. Like you will laugh in Michelle's books, you will not laugh at any of mine, But yeah, and then I had, there was a person that I worked with whose son did something very similar to Saving Noah, and the book was born when the thing that she just kept saying over and over and over again was like, "But I breastfed him." It was like her brain could not connect how this, being that came out of her that could then go on to do something horrific. So.
Has anybody seen that series Adolescence?
Oh God, yeah, it's intense.
That therapist session is so well done.
Yeah, the kid was incredible too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd never acted before.
Really?
That was his first gig.
Is that right?
Isn't that wild? That was his first gig.
Wow.
He did that very well.
So, Lucinda, you've been drawn mainly to standalone stories, right?
Yes, all of mine are standalones. I don't have any series. Yeah.
What's the appeal of both? Because I know you've done both. I mean, with the standalone, there's no guarantee that everybody's going to live to the end of the book. That's one thing.
I would love to write a series. I've pitched a couple different series to publishers, and it's just hasn't happened. But yeah, I mean,
Really?
I have a couple different series that if they keep telling me no, I might do by myself. It's true.
You should.
Yeah.
You should.
Are you attracted to both, or do you prefer a good series?
I kind of like doing both. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like as a reader, I have a hard time. Like, I get very attached, right? Like, I get very sad when a series ends, whether it's on TV or in books. Like, I get very attached to characters. And so, and that being said, I also can't imagine writing 17 books with the same characters. I don't know how people do. I really don't know how people do that. I think it's amazing that people can do that. The most I've ever done was 4, and I kind of hit the end of that one and felt like, oh God, like if someone told me you had to write a 5th book in that series, I think I would have really lost it. But that's funny though, because now I was thinking about that series the other day. I was like, I don't know, I could go back. I could like try it.
Pick it back up.
Yeah, but standalones are kind of nice because they're so contained, you know, and you have this like, I don't know, there's a different level of control because you're not thinking like, okay, well, I have to leave some little thread here so they can pick that up in the next book, right?
Right.
Also, like remembering everyone's eye color. I keep a file now. I write in Scrivener, and I have like anytime I write a physical description of a character, I like copy and paste it and drag it into their file because otherwise I'll be like 3 books in and be like, oh my God, what color was that person? Are they short? Are they? I don't remember. I don't remember.
It is funny because sometimes that stuff will get past like editing, and someone else will
yeah.
pick it up of like, wait,
Big
this
time.
like person had brown eyes in
Yeah.
chapter 3, and now they have green in
Totally.
chapter 12. Yeah, and it might have gone through every editor.
No,
and
completely.
still end up in there. Yeah. You in the back. Yeah, I mean, I've always, like, I've just always been attracted. Like, I've always read it. I've always read that sort of stuff. That's like my preference, even though I read other things as well. But it's just how I like to tell a story. I don't know, and because my stuff is so character driven, and it's like, and I just like to dig into psyche and all of that. And I don't know. I tried one time to write a story that had like a happily ever after. Like, and I am a person, no, for real, like I always say I don't get writer's block, right? Like I'm always like, I don't get writer's block. It just like, whatever. And it just, not part of my experience. And then it was actually, I think it was over COVID in those writing groups that I was doing, right? And we were not just all thriller writers anyways. And so it was somebody that's like a cozy mystery person, right? And I was like, man, like, how do like, how does that actually work, right? And so, like, on my run, like, the next morning, I was, like, trying to think how I write of, like, a story, and it was literally, like, like, there was nothing. Like, I just couldn't do it. It's like, I don't know, my brain just...
Yeah, I started in magazines, actually. So, like, I had always written fiction. I won a prize when I was 6 for writing a story about Tommy the Toothbrush. I don't think he died. It's possible something terrible happened. I don't remember the story now. Yeah, exactly. But I think, yeah, I'd always written, but I mean, my parents were like, well, you can't make a living doing this, right? So then I proceeded to do a whole bunch of other jobs in my 20s where you also could not make a living, which were all listed at the beginning in my bio. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I was doing like personal training, and then I had it was sort of the beginning of the .com stuff. And so I had all these friends from college who were writing for websites or running websites, and they're like, hey, like we've got some writing work we can kick your way. So I started there, and then I kind of moved into magazines, and I really loved, like, I would do these things for San Francisco Magazine where I would follow, like, Ariana Huffington around for a day, right? And then write this kind of narrative of what that was like. And I really loved it. I started getting into it. And so then, that's when I started actually being like, oh, like maybe I'll dive back into fiction. And But I've gone back and forth. I mean, that's the thing is like the YA for me. I mean, I feel like the YA books are basically the same books but younger characters, right? Like there's nothing else different about them. I mean, they're actually as dark or darker than this. You know, I mean, I feel like kids actually have a real appetite for that, right? Like teenagers love when you go dark. So I'm always sort of chasing the story. Like I'm just in the characters. Like it's always who do I want to write about today? Like what are the voices I'm hearing in my head? And I love doing research. I think that's the thing. Research is so fun for me. I love learning about new things. I love that both of my jobs now require me to do a lot of research and a lot of learning. And I think that's kind of a gift, right? Because I never get bored.
You made me laugh when you said Ariana Huffington because I actually was a mommy blogger for a while. When my kid was young, I did a lot of that. And can't
You
find
know what?
any
She
of it
was
now.
lovely. I have to say, I really enjoyed my
got
day
paid.
with her.
But nobody got paid for anybody that wrote for
Yeah.
Huffington. Nobody got paid, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not surprised by that. She did quite well.
Yeah, she did well, but none of the you like wrote for Huffington for clout. It was like no one got paid for it.
Well, it's all about conflict, right? I mean,
Yeah.
who wants to read about well-adjusted people making good moves, you know?
Right? That's no fun.
It's a very good point.
We
Right?
want conflict. We want, yeah. Any other questions?
Well, first is, have you thought about like having a side gig so everybody that reads your book gets a referral to therapy? And then we can have like group therapy.
I mean, it would work.
Yeah. Destroy it, and then you can't talk to people about it, right? But seriously, my other question for both of you is, do you read your own reviews and do you drink wine when you're doing it?
Never. Never. I won't do it. I used to, and I will not. I won't. My publisher will send them to me, and I'm like, great, not opening this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it. I mean, people will send me. I mean, I get some funny reviews, and I also get some like hateful reviews. A lot of my horrible reviews actually sell my stuff. So I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's I mean, the thing with reviews, and again, when you're starting out, right, you really do read them a lot. But one of the things that you figure out that I know you can attest to is like, it doesn't matter what you write, someone is always going to hate it and say that it's trash. So like that's the other part of being a creative that you have to like be okay with, is there's always going to be people that don't like your stuff, like no matter what, right? And so once it takes some of that, but it's different when it's your first book, right? Or your second book, because you're like, oh my God, this is,
What are they saying?
you know, and anyways, but yeah, but now you're like, you just know that it's, but yeah,
I don't
mean,
look at
I
all.
would like,
People
ugh.
will tag me sometimes,
Yeah.
though. Only the people who write terrible reviews. They will tag you.
Yes.
They'll be like 1 star, and then they'll tag
Yes.
you. And I'm
All
like,
my 1 stars are because the
What are
1
you
stars are the
doing?
ones that shared it with you, right? I'm like, yeah.
I think she might be onto something, though. Like maybe like a $50 BetterHelp gift card.
start
I
an
would
app.
definitely offer therapy to the people who give me a star and tag me. I want to talk to those people.
Right.
Yeah.
He said at the beginning about some of your books being like optioned for film, maybe.
Yes.
Is there any news you can share?
So I have a lot of things that are in different places. So Perfect Child is in a weird spot, so we may eventually see that. And then Keep Your Friends Close. Looks like, I don't know, it's like hard to, but it potentially is going to be a series. So, and the first season is like based on the book, and then so it's like a Desperate Housewives meets Lucinda Berry brain sort of deal is what they'll do with it, and the first season is based on that whole book, and then they take a lot of side characters actually and do cool stuff with. So those are the two that are like closest to actually being on the screen. Film is so different, and so I don't know why it takes so long. I mean, it's just like I mean, it's like a whole different thing. So actually from getting something optioned to the actual screen is a long process. But I have 2 that are finally very close, and then others in various stages.
I have so Universal TV option the series for Queen Latifah's company Flavor Units because Queen wants to play one of the characters in the book, the motel owner, actually, which is really exciting. So we've sort of been lurching forward with that, but like the strike slowed everything down. Nobody's making anything right now. It's been like a little crazy in Hollywood at the moment, but yeah, fits and starts.
Yeah.
So how much control do you get in that? Because a lot of times, you know, as a reader, you read a book and then you're seeing it on the screen and they're awful. Like once you've read the book, the movie is just like
Yeah.
most of the time. So how much control do you have in that? Because wouldn't that like horrify you if you know, they didn't put certain things in there or?
I mean, I think it's different. I mean, it's different for every person, right? So, like, and it depends on who you're doing it for. So, sometimes people are like an executive producer and are very like in there with all of it. Sometimes people aren't. Like, it depends on the book. You know, it's like there's so many variables that go into it. You know, I think just personally, like for me, I think that like I just from what I've seen, like any of the scripts that I've seen, you know, I'm a very like sort of hands off because like I know how to write books, but I don't really know how to write scripts, right? So like maybe this will be, you know, maybe this will be better. I don't know, but I mean, but I do also know I'm like I can't think of very many books where I was like, oh, the movie was better than the book, right? Like, how many can you actually, you know? I mean, it's like a, you know,
Yeah.
it's like a, you know, so.
I actually think the ending of About a Boy is better in the film version. And I love the book, but the ending in the film version was better. So I had one of my trilogies ended up getting adapted for ABC Family, and it got pretty far down the road, but didn't get picked up from the pilot. For this one, I am a co-EP, and so I'm co-writing and working with the producers on it, and so I am part of adapting. But I'm also very aware of the fact that the book and whatever comes from the book are two very different things, and they kind of have to be, right? And so it's sort of that detachment thing again, right? Where I'm actually excited. I wanted to work with someone else who would bring fresh eyes to it and be like, and come up with other ideas that I couldn't come up with. Because the thing about being an author is it's kind of lonely, right? Like I don't have a whole room full of other people pitching ideas at me. When I get stuck, it's just me. I'm just like wandering around my house, you know, like going, oh my God, like how am I going to get them out of this corner? So I was really excited at the prospect of having other people to come up with ideas that would probably never occur to me.
Well, it's fascinating to me too, though, how people that like shows and stuff, how they write together, right? Like all these, it's like that part of it, like the TV writing and stuff like that is fascinating to me. You know, like when you have a show that's like out every week, you know, it's like they're all, I'm like, it's such an interesting process. It'd be like all of us sitting down in a room together and then like writing a book. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's like a very, you know, it's a very different way to write, you know? It's a very different
And
way
I
to
think
write.
it also makes you like you have to like let go of some of your ego, which I think is not a bad thing necessarily, right?
Do you guys have beta readers or?
Oh yeah.
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 What's that like?
I've got a couple. I've got one of my sisters is an editor, and so she's great. And then my partner is also great, although I would never, you know, he'll read it and be like, I don't know about this, and be like, well, you're wrong. And then I'll go away and I'll be like, actually, you might be right.
Well, anybody final questions?
Yeah.
What is your favorite that you've written, whether it got picked up or published or not, and why is it your favorite, and like what inspired it?
I always answer this two ways. So it's like there's different processes of writing a book, right? So my book that was the funnest book to research was When She Returned. And When She Returned is my book that's cult centered. And so the research for that, I just watched cult documentaries. I read cult memoirs. I listened to the like Jamestown tapes. I mean, like,
Fun times.
like, yeah. So it's like, right? It's like, that tells you all you need. But I was like, I loved that, researching that book. And then the actual, like, really the funnest book for me to write was really The Perfect Child. And part of it was like it had been inside me for like all of those years. So like when I could finally write it, I was like, and even now that I'm writing Janie again, and she's like my funnest character to write about. So I like child sociopaths. So
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I can easily tell you what my least favorite of my books is, honestly. I feel like this year, I like to think that I'm hopeful that I get a little bit better with every book. I feel like every book is kind of like my own continuing education experience. And so I think this series for me especially holds a special place just because it was such a necessary escape hatch for me. Like it was something that really got me out, got me out of my locked house with my entire family driving each other crazy for all of those long months that we were all stuck inside, right? So, I mean, there is something about that book I think that will always be special for me, no matter how many more I write, just because it was such a refuge.
Well, it has been such a fun hour. Anybody have a final question, or am I missing anybody? Well, then let's break up and have you guys sign some books for us. And let's
thank
give,
you
Michelle
so much
and
for coming
Lucinda-
out. All your
Coming.
questions.
We
Thank
really
you. Thank you.
appreciate it.
Are you guys cool with staying at this table, or
Sure.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to just, we can just sign here.
So if you guys wouldn't mind, some of you know the drill. Just folding up your chair. I'll help. Put it against this wall, this side.
Sharpie. It didn't register in my brain at first. I was like, wait. Oh, sorry. I forgot to find the slide. No, she doesn't even I love when you do these. Thank you both. Yes, thank you for coming.
she's my other daughter. Her favorite daughter. Probably my favorite daughter, yes. Not the dog anymore.
Who am I addressing?
And Julie.
Okay, Julie. I almost said mom.
That's okay. Yeah. This is so exciting to meet you. I called. I was on vacation with my husband, and I was going to see the Poison Pen, and I called my daughter and said, "Anybody want to go see Lucinda Berry?" And they were like, "Yes, yes, yes."
Well, thank you for bringing the whole family.
Oh, no. So lovely to meet you.
So lovely.
Thank you so much.
All the saving Noahs. All the saving Noahs.
all the saving Noahs.
I'm telling you, at Murder by the Book, I probably signed more saving Noah than I did my new one.
It's just, I mean, I tell everyone, I'm like, I explained it, she was saying it earlier, she's like, hear me out. Hear me out. When I explained the book, I'm like, this is the way it's written from the mom's perspective. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
this one killed me and I wrote it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it was the whole, it was.
First thing you said to me after I was jumping, what that was us.
No, right? But that's the thing, you always think, yeah, it's what if your child that you love more than anything else is happens all the time.
Sydney, S-Y-D.
Because I read The Perfect Child, and then I went through all of your books, and then I was like, you need to read Saving Noah. She read Saving Noah, she read it, and then we got her to read it too. And that was
Thank you.
I know I'm on my way to read all the rest of it. And actually, I would like to get your first. I was looking at it over there thinking, okay, it's kind of up my alley. I think I'm definitely going to have to get it. Yeah. Definitely.
One more. You right? Cora? C-O-R-A? Yes. Are you guys all from the area? Yeah. Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Too many born in Scottsdale too, so not too many of us. Very proud of that. Yeah.
My grandparents actually lived in Phoenix, so we used to drive every other year, because I'm like originally from Minnesota, but we used to drive every other Christmas from Minnesota to Phoenix in a car. In a car, 3 days, yes.
You didn't do it the second time.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
I brought a lot, but if you want to cut me off at any point, that's totally fine.
Okay. What's your name?
Carly.
Carly?
K-A-R-L-I.
L-I?
Yeah. Kind of a weird spelling.
I was like, making sure I got it right. I'll do a couple, and then if you want to wait, come back. I'll do your whole bag. I'll do your whole bag when everybody's here.
Get Saving Noah for sure.
I will do your whole. I just don't want to.
No, for sure. I
Yeah,
totally understand.
do it on time.
I just didn't know what the cutoff was.
I'll do your whole bag.
Stick around.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely don't want to hold this line.
Like no one will know I'm doing this.
I'm excited to tell my reading friends. Because we all love
Kids who do reading sprints, yeah.
when you
We
said
do
you did
writing
writing
sprints.
Yeah, I was like, we do reading sprints.
Yeah, we do. We do writing, like we do writing sprints.
It kind of depends. Usually like 30 minutes, and we'll all